this video. It is a failed baking experiment, but like let's say semi-failed. It just looks horrendous, but it tasted great. Will I make this again? Probably yes, because I love like trying a recipe and trying my best to make it work out, but not anytime soon, like how I kind of came back quickly after my cinnamon rolls. So I am making a Hungarian dessert called a Dobos Torte. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. You can see how it's spelled, and if anyone knows how to pronounce it, please correct me in the comments. This cake was founded by a chef who cooked for like this Hungarian king like way long ago, and it's became a pretty popular dessert in Hungary, or a dessert that they're known for. So my little sister borrowed a cooking book from her school's library, and it was all about like baking and making sweet treats. And I'm like, okay, we can make something if you want to. And she pointed to the Dobos Torte and was like, we have to make this. And I'm like, ooh, of all the cakes, cookies, and treats, you want to make this? And that's what we did. I underestimated the skill this cake takes to make. Her cookbook is like 1 to 3, and this was level, like the levels are from 1 to 3, and this was level 3. And yeah, I can see why it's level 3 because it's not easy to make. The ingredients were quite simple, but the technique requires practice, which you can see I struggled with. So I made this along like with her, so like she helped me out with this, and she did a lot of the, like it was pretty 50-50. As you can see here, basically we separated the egg yolks terribly, and this is what really caused our dessert to semi-fail. And you can see here the egg whites are not frothy, they're not peaky, they're very wet because they were not properly separated. Then I'm adding in the flour and gradually mixing that with like our egg yolk sugar mixture. And by the way, the thing in the cup is flour, and I use confectioner sugar. The recipe required for like powdered icing sugar, so that's what I'm using. So if you don't see me using sugar, well, I am. It just doesn't look like your typical sugar, but I'm pretty sure y'all know what icing sugar is. Anyways, so I'm just mixing that all together. So the recipe required me to like put some egg whites, put some flour. As you can see, I just couldn't really be bothered to do that, so I tried my best and to not do it so gently. But yeah. As you can see, well, you're gonna see, it's a very like tedious recipe. Like for this, you have to make 6 thin layers of cake. So you have to like pour some cake on parchment paper, bake it, take it out, bake a new sheet, bake a new sheet, bake a new sheet. You can't just like bake a cake then like cut it in 6 layers. Like you have to do it individually. And I've been trying to make things a more authentic way. Like I have a tiramisu video coming up, and that's pretty much it. And I try to make things as authentic as possible. I've seen people where they just bake the cake and cut it into like 6 layers, and a bunch of like Hungarian people in the comments are like, that's not how you make it the right way, that's not authentic, that's not a Dobos Torte. So I'm like, let me just try to make it the best way I can, according to this recipe book and to what I've seen online. And as you can see here, I am just taking each, like the filling or the cake mixture, and I drew a circle on the back of the parchment paper, flipped it over so I can still see the circle, and then I'm pouring the mixture over it to fit the circle. I did a terrible job at making the circle. As you can see here, it was just a disaster. Like there was like the edges were not clean, and when I bake it, it kind of burns off, but it still tasted great. Like when I made it, it tasted great. So you know, so that's what I'm doing with my little wooden spoon. And with this like mixture, I was able to make like 3 or 4 like layers of cake, which is not enough. So we actually made more, and that's when we fixed the recipe, and it came out pretty good, like semi-good, because this was a fail. Okay, so next I'm getting the butter, and I'm making the chocolate buttercream, and this was like life-changing. This is when I'm like, oh my god, I can make buttercream from scratch, and it's not that hard, and it tastes amazing when you make it from scratch. So to make this chocolate buttercream, I'm taking melted or like softened, but like let's just say melted salted butter, or did I use unsalted butter? I'm not sure, and I don't have the cookbook, so I can't really specify, but this is just a watch me fail this cake video, so no need to follow along. And then I get some cocoa powder and I mix that together. I like salted butter, but this didn't taste salty, so I'm gonna say it was unsalted, because I remember it tasted great, or it tasted good for like a good buttercream that was chocolate flavored, but it wasn't like that nice salty sweet buttercream. So it was probably unsalted butter. So I'm taking that with like 3 to 4 cups of powdered sugar or icing sugar, whatever you call it, and then like a third cup or half a cup of cocoa powder. And then I just get my hand mixer and I mix it. This is such a messy process. And oh, well, I also added vanilla. And I think I added a pinch of salt. No, I did not. Anyways, but I did a little bit of milk, I think. I don't know. Or I did not. I have no idea. Anyways, sorry, this is such a mess. But I'm using my hand mixer, and at first I'm like, ooh, this does not look like buttercream. But then, like, after a while of mixing it, it started to look like chocolate buttercream, and it looked pretty. Okay, it doesn't look the nicest, but it tasted pretty good. Like, I was so proud. I'm like, sign me up for Master Chef. I'm winning the next cake challenge. I can do this. It's not as hard. Because I've been seeing crazy TikToks about people making buttercream and it breaking, it's separating, like the butter, you know, clumping together and starting to separate from like the milk and the sugar, and this came out amazing. And then just to, you know, store it, because I did need the bowl after, I just put it into a plastic bowl. And I'm looking at my counter and I can see it is very dirty. Like, I see cocoa powder on the side, so please ignore that. I promise I wipe my counters all the time. And I just didn't notice that there is cocoa powder in that corner. But anyways, I am filling it up with buttercream, or the cup is, no, the bowl is buttercream, which I'll set aside in the fridge for me to then use for my layers. And like I said before, I didn't have enough Dobos Torte layers, so I ended up just separating the eggs again and restarting. Thank God I bought a lot of eggs, because this literally took me like 10 eggs, which is like not good in this economy. But as you can see here, I told my sister to take a step back and I will separate the eggs, because we got to get this right. At least see the recipe to its full fruition or half fruition. So I'm just using my hand to separate the eggs. There's so many great YouTube videos on how to separate eggs. I find this method works best for me, and yeah. And you can see here in that bowl where the egg yolks are, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't wash the custard bowl. Like, that's like the bowl, so there's still some of the leftover custard batter in there. So it's not really custard batter, but like the sugar egg mixture is still in there, and it's completely safe, so don't worry. And then my sister's working on the egg yolk mixture, and I'm working on making sure that these egg whites are nice and peaky and they don't move and they're stiff, while she is working on the egg yolk mixture, where she added powdered sugar and vanilla, and she is mixing it together, and that's the situation. And I don't know about you, but I find it so satisfying to like whip egg yolks. Ever since when I did this for the first time, I was like so happy. Also, I'm adding powdered sugar into the egg yolk mixture just because that's what the recipe requires. But it's so satisfying, like whipping anything and it becoming thick from liquid. Like, I love making whipped cream. I love, you know, whipping egg yolks. It's so satisfying. Like, it's my favorite thing to do, and that's why I love baking. So yeah, it's just really satisfying. So I'm just putting the egg yolk mixture, or the egg white mixture, into the egg yolk mixture, and this is when it starts to look a whole lot better. This is when it looks like an actual like cake pastry batter. And then I realized, okay, I did not follow this properly, but it still worked out. Okay, so I poured the egg yolk mixture into the egg white mixture. I was actually supposed to put the egg yolk mixture, no, I was supposed to put the egg white mixture into the egg yolk mixture, then add the flour gradually. When I tell you, the kitchen was a disaster. I had no time. I just wanted to get out of the kitchen and start assembling this cake. So I just poured everything inside that bowl, and then just dumped the flour in there, and then just gently mixed it as much as I can, but not over mixing it so the cake doesn't become dense, but until it was nicely incorporated and it was one smooth cake mixture. Oh. Like, doesn't this look so much better than the other situation we had? Like, this looks like a cake batter. Like, it looks good. Like, I was like, whoa. Like, just see how the science and the mechanisms and all that kind of stuff, like, is so crucial when it comes to baking, because this looks so much better than that, like, drippy, eggy batter I had before. And it just smoothes out so much easier. And I'm like, where have you been all my life? And I put way too much mixture here. Like, I put way too much. It shouldn't have been this thick, but I was just like so like happy because it just looks at it, like it just looked like what it was supposed to be, and it made circles so much easier. So yeah. And And here's how it baked out. You can see like the corners are a little burnt, but don't worry, I just like kind of discarded that. And then here's the failed ones. Like these were the ones, it still tasted and looked great, but it wasn't like thick like that. And it was not as big as the other ones, but they still came out great. They're kind of like crepey, but like, you know, they still tasted good, but they just weren't the right, they didn't come out good enough for the Dobos Torte. And now for the caramel topping mixture. This is when it gets really, really ugly, and but it's a learning experience. Like that's how you learn. You get in the kitchen, you try something out, and you learn. Like you have to go through the experience, trial and error, make it work. Again, I want to keep it as authentic as possible. I never made caramel, or I only made caramel like once in my life, but I never made it with powdered sugar. And the recipe said, get a saucepan. I only have a frying pan. Put butter on there, and then get your powdered sugar and just pour it on the pan and let it melt. It did work, but the powdered sugar was still very clumpy. I should have like sifted it before I put it on the pan. And then it said to take that caramel, pour it. It looks so disgusting. Pour it on one of your cake layers, smooth it out, then cut it into 6 triangles. That did not work because the caramel was really thick. I had no idea how to handle it, and I just moved on to making my cake layers and just let it be. And also, do you see how satisfying it was to pull that off the parchment paper? This said, I told myself, if I can make this, I can make a vanilla cake. And that's what inspired my vanilla cake that I made for my brother's birthday, because like that cake layer looked incredible. Like the bottom just looked like what it should be. But then you'll see it kind of gets ugly when I start adding the frosting, because I'm terrible at decorating. But also when I added the the not so good cake layers to this Dobos Torte. But if you want to know what I'm doing here, I'm just taking my chocolate buttercream. I am putting that all over my layer of my cake. And then I am basically putting the buttercream on top, and then just stacking it up until I have no more. I will say I kind of over buttercreamed this cake layer. I think it was just too overwhelming with chocolate buttercream. I thought I didn't even have enough, and I actually made a little bit more, which I'm like, Fortune, why would you do that? But yeah, so far it looks good. Once we get to those ugly layers, that's when it starts to get really ugly, and then the caramel just absolutely just ruins everything. But it's always worth the try, and I'm really proud of how this came out, or no, how it tasted. And let's see if I'll come back and try this again. I don't see myself making this again, but it wouldn't kill to try. I am so embarrassed to show you this part, but look, I cannot get that last piece on top, so I just ended up breaking it, and then like let me just put it on top of the cake so it's still a Dobos Torte. And yeah, here I cut a slice of it, ignore the dishes in my sink, and it came out. You can see the layers, it's there. The cake is a cake. It's just a disaster. Like it was so ugly. Like I gave this to my sister, my mom, my grandma, everybody, and it was just like they just like looked at it and they just closed their eyes and ate it. But it tasted good, and you can see the difference in the layers. Like that's the layers where we properly separated our egg yolks and whipped it up nice and frothy, and that's the one where we didn't. And you can see which one looks very like eggy dancey, whatever, and then the ones that look more fluffy. And it was nice to see the difference, so I know that I improved making the actual cake, and it tasted really good. Like it's a very, I would say this is a bit, I like sweet things, but I like sweet things that have a bit of a balance. Like this, in my personal opinion, is just sweet, and the chocolate doesn't really balance out because there's not a lot of cocoa powder in the buttercream, so it was definitely on the sweeter side. I will say though, as I'm pointing out here, you can see the difference in terms of like the cake layers as to which ones we did properly and the ones we didn't. And then the caramel was just a disaster, so let's not even like look at that because it's just tragic. But I'm really, really proud because this is not the easiest recipe to make, and it's very time consuming, it's very tedious, and I'm glad that I finished and pulled through. And the fact that I didn't even want to post this video because it was so degrading to who I am. No, not to who I am, but like it's just in terms of the quality of video I want to make. And this is the recipe. That's how it's supposed to look like. We tried our best. We tried our best. We tried our best. That's all I can say. We tried our best. It did not look like a circle. Well, it does. It looks like a half sphere, whereas the other one is more a 3D circle that is like I don't even know. I can't even talk right now. But yeah, here's the Dobos Torte. Let me know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. And I tried, you know, and this is just me, doing my amateur baking and whatnot. So, you know, thanks for sticking along and watching me. One thing that really inspired me to actually post this video was when I was younger, I loved Justine, and she would like, oh my god, they're not even sticking together because of how like crazy it is. The ones that are good are sticking together, and the ones that are not are falling apart. But anyways, like I said, I was inspired by Justine. She does like tech reviews on her YouTube channel, and when I was younger, I loved watching her like bake in the kitchen. She would do a good job. She would try her best. Recipes would fail, but it was just fun to see, you know, watch her videos of her attempting to cook and bake, because I feel like, you know, it's just fun. So I was inspired to post this video because of her. And yeah, so see you in the next one, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching it. You're a real one if you do, because this was not a very cute recipe to attempt. So see you.